Welcome to Critical Connections. I'm Ivy Cuervo. Today's episode is very special. We're pulling back the curtain on a product launch that's been years in the making, the Dejero Titan product family, with Titan Command as the first release, an industry first with 3 independent 5G modems, integrated antennas, GPS, and Dejero Smart Blending Technology, purpose-built for mission-critical operation.
Introducing Dejero Titan Command, the flagship of the product family.
We've assembled an impressive group of experts to share their perspectives. Matt Scully, you're the Director of Product Management at Dejero. You led the development of the Titan series. You've got more than 2 decades of transforming complex telecommunication challenges, including building the world's largest converged IP service network at Comcast. Hello.
Hi, Evie. How are you?
We're also joined by Dean Taylor. He's the Director of Technical Account Management. He has 30 years in public safety, including 17 years at a county sheriff's office in the United States as a sergeant in emergency services. And he is live testing Command again from the field, just to demonstrate the power of this technology. Hello, Dean.
Hey, Evie, good to see you and look forward to having the conversation with the team here.
Yes. And of course, Marcus Barnett, he is a business development advisor with 30 years with the Metropolitan Police in London, England, retiring as Detective Chief Superintendent, then moving on as General Manager at Fuses and Axon. You bring a really interesting perspective from somebody on the front lines and also using technology. Welcome.
Thanks a lot, Ivy, and great to be part of this conversation. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Okay, well, let's get right into it. Really, we could start with Matt, maybe to kick us off, and Dean. The both of you talk to customers, at any point during your day. What were you hearing that made you think, hey, we need something fundamentally different here?
Yeah, thanks, Evie. So we've been presenting our gateway solutions to our customers now for over 5 years, and as technology is evolving, we keep coming across companies that just want to future-proof, right? That want to make sure that they're buying the latest and greatest technologies, which of course makes sense. But then there are other customers that are, maybe in more urban areas that have a higher degree of penetration of 5G connectivity services, and they want to be able to actually leverage that technology that's been deployed. Well, more of the rural areas or more mobile installations are still highly dependent upon LTE services.
Mm-hmm.
We've been looking at this now for a couple of years in making a full transition. We had our earlier 5G product, the 3220, was very successful as a 2 modem unit. But our customers were asking for more. They were looking at our 3 modem LTE, the 211s, and they were looking at our 6 modem M6s. Just asking what it would take for us to build a 3x5G dedicated router. So that's really where it all started, right? Was directly from the customer and asking for this technology, future-proofing their purchases, and really being able to leverage the technologies as the carriers are rolling out the 5G.
So when you hear, 3 independent 5G modems in a single device with antennas, with GPS, with the Dejero Smart Blend technology, what was your honest reaction?
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, right? I know that worrying about the heat of the modems, worrying about the space for the modems, the antennas, we really wanted to make these our gateway products easier to deploy, and dealing with this many antennas is really cumbersome for deployments.
Mm-hmm.
And then being tied to the location of the antennas, right? And tying that into your hardware, right? Because you don't want too long of cables out to your antennas because of the RF loss. And trying to put that all together into a single design and come up with a solution that makes this easy to deploy, as small a package as we can get it, and still getting that triple 5G modem into the mix. That was really what ran through my head, right? This is really going to be a design challenge.
Well, Dean, from your perspective, having spent nearly 2 decades in the field of law enforcement in the United States, what was missing from the technology you had access to at that time?
Wow, where do I start? What was missing? There's a lot missing. We find that in public safety, we typically are the ones who are making do with what we have, right? So I think to I would like to add on what Matt said, a game changer to me is the integrated antennas. The simplicity in deploying this in the field with the integrated antennas or putting it into a mobile environment in a patrol vehicle or an apparatus without having to figure out where those antennas go, running all those cables, drilling holes in your brand new patrol car. That's crazy.
Mhm.
So I look upon connectivity in a patrol car just like you think about it in your home office or your office, right? There's a cable, and every time that you want to do something on your computer, you don't think about how much data is going through that cable. You just think, well, I need more data, right? In the field, we're struggling with the same problems. Over the years, we've gotten more
Mhm.
applications, more sophisticated applications, utilizations, ways to reduce cost by uploading our body worn camera videos directly from the field to our supervisor. All of that needs to pass through data. And when you're in your home or your office, you don't think about how much data is going through that cable. Believe me, it's a struggle to get a certain amount of data through that mobile router. So I would say the challenge has been throughput, managing the SIMs, and then the integrated antennas.
Mhm. Marcus, same question, but from the UK policing context. What would three independent 5G modems mean for operations that you ran at the Met?
It's a great question. And just if I can, Evie, just go back to some of the points that Matt and Dean have just made about the tech in policing and the things that I have seen in my time already with Dejero, and Matt very much touched upon it. It's not just sometimes policing is often behind the curve in the technology that's needed to do the job, but then when technology is acquired, often the user requirement isn't properly considered. People haven't really sat and thought about what it is that policing really needs. Is it user friendly? Does it meet the sort of the adaptability test? Does it do the job that it says it should on the tin? Is it reliable? Is it trusted technology? And I think the point that Matt made, which was quite subtle but really crucial, is that we have sat down and spoken to operators in the field to understand what it is that they need to do their job in a modern policing world, whether that be in America or certainly in the UK. From my perspective, what does 5G, SIMs and a modem mean in terms of connectivity in London? I always think about, and I know Dean will very much relate to this, how do we manage in a policing context threat, harm, and risk? How do we make sure that the officers on the ground are able to, in a world where everything is all around data, when you're out in the field, you get the information that you need in real time, in fast time, that you can relay information back to a supervisor, a command and control center, and all of that happens seamlessly. And if we don't have that in a world where there is a requirement to do so, that starts to equal we are not able to deal with the threat, the harm, and the risk effectively. And what that means then is there is risk. We're not very precise in what we're doing. So it's a really, really crucial step forward in the technology that's now becoming available with built-in modems, built-in antennas. It's on the go. And through the blended technology, it is, as Dean says, game changing. So I would have loved to have had this for my staff, for policing in London, but just the UK wide, I know, faces the same challenges. So it's fantastic.
Amazing. And just to prove a point, because, we're all in different cities, if you can just kind of tell whomever's listening where you're all coming from, because you can tell we all have different levels of connectivity. So I am in Toronto, Ontario, in Canada. Matt, where are you?
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
Marcus, where are you?
I'm in Cambridge in the UK, United Kingdom.
How about yourself, Dean? Where are you traveling about?
I'm near Elvis's home, and I'm near Memphis. So
Memphis,
pick one.
amazing. And I apologize in advance, but I have a new puppy and he's kind of with me. So cute factor here for this podcast interview.
That's great.
I want to switch gears. So we heard from Marcus and Dean. Matt, you hear from these incredible leaders in public safety about the things that were missing, the things that they needed. So now, as part of the Dejero team, you've committed to building this thing. What was the hardest engineering problem to crack? And I'm sure there are many, but one that stands out to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So It goes back to that deployability, right? And so as Marcos was saying and Dean touched upon, right, the ability to deploy the device was going to be the paramount consideration. So we wanted to do integrated antennas, and creating that antenna design was definitely one of the hardest challenges that we've entered into. We've done this once before, right? We've done this with our broadcast product line and our Ingo product that has, all our integrated antennas. And so, we weren't starting from scratch, but we knew we wanted it to be in a certain type of form factor and a certain layout, and making sure that we had the brightest minds at Dejero working on trying to get those antennas just right was definitely what I consider the hardest challenge of the device itself.
We think about in public safety is like how many antennas you're drilling on the roof, right? And so in this particular case, I know that a lot of agencies were shocked when 5G came out because there is a requirement that there's more antennas for each one of those radios. Can you sort of expand on that a little bit for us, maybe for our audience?
Yeah, for sure, Dean. So yeah, the old LTE modems had two antennas each, right? So a 211 with three LTE modems, you would have six antennas necessary to support that device. In this case, in 5G modems, they're what's called a 4x4 MIMO, right? So there's actually four individual antennas for every modem, right? So we have 12 antennas just for the cell modems, plus two additional antennas on the Wi-Fi side and a GPS antenna. Right. So there's actually a total of there's 14 embedded antennas internal to the unit, and then one external connection for GPS if you desire to have a GPS connection on the device. So trying to integrate 14 antennas was a big.
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
that's why 5G can get those speeds, right? Because you got more antennas to pass data
Hmm.
partially.
Yeah, exactly. It's you're able to on LTE you were able to transmit and receive on a single antenna, and then you could add a secondary antenna as another receive. And in 5G, you've got four antennas. In the current deployments and the current specifications, you can actually transmit and receive on two antennas, and then receive on the other two. Eventually, you'll be able to receive or transmit on all, depending upon the technology that's actually being deployed into the modem sets.
It's very
So
cool.
it's expanded greatly as what its capabilities are.
Dean, you actually have tested Titan Command and you're currently in a vehicle riding shotgun using Dejero Titan Command. I guess when you first got your hands on it, what stood out to you? Did it work better than expected? Did you have any pushback? Share your thoughts.
Well, we're still collecting data. The biggest wow for me is again the simplicity of the form factor. The fact that the antennas are built in is huge. Think about your iPhone next to a really fast 5G antenna array. Well, there's three radios in this device.
Hmm.
So, look, at the end of the day, what's important is not necessarily the upload and download speeds to
Hmm.
any public safety professional. It's the fact that you have some redundancy, right? Dejero has taken their 16 years of experience, and especially when you think about Dejero was handling the toughest files at the beginning. That's
Hmm.
video, right? Law enforcement is just coming in to using more and more video in a mobile environment
Hmm.
between UAS, automatic license plate readers that are mobile, in-car cameras, prisoner cameras,
Hmm.
body-worn cameras, all of those are
That's
video.
insane.
Well, DeGiro's been doing this for years. So we started with the toughest lift and have worked our way back. So I think between the smart blending technology and the form factor, this is definitely going to meet a lot of people's wish lists.
Yeah. Marcus, you've been at the receiving end of a lot of vendor promises for your career. What makes you confident when a solution comes out that it will actually hold up when it matters?
I mentioned earlier on, of course, the one thing
Hmm.
that we public sector, public safety organizations want is to know that what something says on the tin is actually done. And
Hmm.
more often than not, in my experience, going back over many years, people will try to sell you something that in reality doesn't really do what it says. And again, I've alluded to it, Evie, that the thing about
Hmm.
Dejero that I've seen, and I wouldn't put my name to anything that I didn't trust or believe in, is that the products are customer focused in their development. They're rigorously tested.
Hmm.
Dean's just mentioned now, things are still being tested, but actually rigorously tested. It's the customer care, it's the support, it's the how do you look after, how do you partner with those that you're in business with, those that you're supporting. And there is no greater, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because it's part of who I am, greater mission than law enforcement and public safety. And so
Hmm.
it's that kind of genuine, authentic backbone of an organization that you kind of get a sense and trust for. And again, Dean will be testament to this. Policing, you have a very good sense of understanding or seeing something that's genuine or fake. So,
Hmm.
vendor, it's the product. You can test it, you can see it for yourself, you can try it for yourself. It does what it says on the tin, it's easy to use. Look at
Hmm.
Dejero's history over 16, 17 years. It's a globally recognized brand that's growing. Well, that's what makes you confident in the product when you've got to put it into the
Hmm.
hands of people that are out there, the heroes that are saving people's lives.
And Marcus, you specialized in threat, risk, and harm management at the Met. Can you share with us a scenario where better connectivity would have changed that outcome?
Yeah. I mean, I had a fantastic career and I was very blessed. And I worked in many different areas and looked after big parts of London and I worked in specialist crime. And the one thing that I would say for those that are listening to this is the Dejero product, Titan, is not just for one particular part of policing. We've mentioned
Hmm.
it already in this conversation that policing and its use of technology in the field is growing through drones as a first responder to CCTV cameras to body worn video. But I, for many years, was part of a very specialist surveillance capability for London. And that included counterterrorism, specialist serious organized crime. And you've only got to go back to things like that environment where you are going from rural to urban. You're very mobile. You're on the move quickly. You're deploying rapidly. You don't get a second chance at anything. You've got to gather the information there and then. You've got to capture
Hmm.
the data. You've got to get information quickly to brief, to understand what it is that you're dealing with. I mean, I could count numerous examples, serious critical incidents in London that I was overseeing where information
Hmm.
relay means you either
Hmm.
go through a door or you don't. And a second could mean literally
Hmm.
life or death. If you're involved in a serious kidnap, to executing warrants, to apprehending offenders. Honestly, Evie, the list is endless for policing where communication,
Hmm.
we always used to say, and we were always taught, communication is king. Communication is the
Yeah.
key thing in policing. It's how you escalate, de-escalate. It's how you deal with colleagues. It's how you understand your threat, your harm, your risk, and how you manage an incident. So it's endless. But yeah, I mean, I could talk for hours on how this could help and will undoubtedly help and shape
Yeah.
policing going forward.
The difference between chaos and control often comes down to having the right information at the right moment. That's a quote from you, Dean. When did you realize, what was the moment when you thought, hey, technology could transform law enforcement?
I think that in policing and public safety, we're always looking to see how to integrate technology to help the public. And sometimes it works, sometimes it gets us in trouble, right? I think the trick to it is that Marcus alluded to this earlier. In public safety, and that's police, fire, EMS, you name it. When you have something that you're trying to have those individuals use in the field and it doesn't work the first time, they'll give you a little grace. When it doesn't work the second time, they're not going to use it anymore. And the third time that you try to impress upon them to use it, they're going to tell everybody they know that it doesn't work, right? I mean, we're a very fickle group in public safety. And the important part about this is that this is where we're desperate for solutions.
Hmm.
And what I think, specifically about the Dejero solution is platform, it's the base for all of this future need. The struggle that agencies have with providing good technology in the field is what I talked about earlier about the cord that you have plugged into your computer in your home office. You don't think about
Hmm.
that connectivity, it's just there in the field. And you see me, I'm bouncing around as I hit route 304 here. When we're mobile, we don't have a 3,000-foot extension cord plugged into our our router, right? We're mobile. And that's the challenge. Every time you want to use technology even a little bit more, you're asking for a more stable connection that you can rely on every moment. And that's what I think we're aspiring to. And this device is the next iteration in that solution for public safety and beyond.
Matt, how did conversations with law enforcement and public safety, partners, practitioners shape what was actually built? Because I'm sure you probably at some point had a mock up or an idea, and I'm sure that continued to evolve throughout the process.
Yeah. So we've talked to literally probably hundreds of agencies and customers that have provided us feedback on our products all on the way. I've been here for about 5 years now, and I've been talking to customers just about daily. And I love to hear their feedback, whether they were talking about this product or answering, "Hey, what would you like in the future?" They were giving me feedback all along the way of how they want to use it, what different types of scenarios are they integrating with, what kind of networking environments, and what type of outdoor environments, right? What are the temperatures that they need to deal with, the extremes of our customer base from deserts to near Arctic conditions. We've been taking all of that in, and we've had a number of conversations specifically around the next generation and what has eventually become the Titan Command. And we have made sure that we have the right number of Ethernet ports, the right temperature range, so we have extreme temperature control. We wanted the ability to mount the unit indoors and outdoors, and to have that flexibility. We wanted to leverage standard NEMA enclosures, so we have a tried and tested technology for exterior mounts. And we wanted the flexibility on powering the unit. So you can power it up via DC, with AC adapters. You can use PoE. We wanted to provide that flexibility for deployments. And we wanted to make sure at the end of the day that antenna technology that we have is robust enough to be mounted indoors and still operate equivalent to our other units, or to be mounted exterior and provide a much more robust solution for managing that signal quality. Right, it's
Mhm.
paramount to the operation of the device.
Matt, the core innovation here is the blending of three 5G networks simultaneously. For someone who's not technical, why does that matter?
If you look around in the airspace around you, and we're here in North America, we have three primary carriers, multiple MVNOs, and other smaller regional carriers. That holds true in Canada as well, but rest of the world, there's at least two carriers, probably in most cases more than two carriers available. So having the ability to have one device, have three carriers available, to have the ability to connect to them via 5G or fall back to 4G. And 5G has multiple operating modes, right? Standalone and non-standalone mode, right? If you have the ability to support all of those, and you can cover all of those different technologies active at the same time, right? Not having to switch between them, not having to switch SIMs. Everything's active. The software behind us is tried and tested in smart blending technology, can just aggregate those modem signals together, no matter which of those technologies they're using, and leverage it to get the most possible bandwidth and the best possible performance.
Dean, you've described Degero's approach as pace level. Why don't you explain a bit more and how, Titan Command delivers on that standard?
Sure, I'd be glad to. PACE in North America is the primary, the alternate, contingency, and emergency. In other parts of the world, they use different acronyms, but basically, this is through the incident command system. And it's like, hey, what am I going to use first? What am I going to use if that doesn't work? And when you get down to emergency, maybe it's hand signals, right? Well, what I find in most public safety groups is you're operating in a mobile environment where you've provided your primary, and then maybe the device, like a body worn camera, has two SIMs in it. You've got a primary and an alternate. So you're ready for a fail, and you have an alternate, right? So in PACE, you think about it, it's all these disparate sources of connectivity. And when do I use them? So often you find that people are purchasing plans or providing equipment that's just sitting there waiting to be the contingency or the emergency. In some cases, the alternate. Well, that's kind of wasteful because in those cases, that equipment is only being used if you have a contingency or emergency. So different here in our technology is we're like, look, if you're paying for that sim to just sit there and wait for something to fail, why don't we throw it into the mix and blend it? Why don't we use it in those environments and give you a little bit more connectivity to climb that ladder, push more video, use a UAS. You know, Marcus, we were talking earlier off camera about, you know, in the UK, there's a lot more use of video than there currently is in North America. That's getting to be with drone as first responder programs or in-car cameras, that's getting to be more of a balance. But in the UK's case, they've been using video for all sorts of applications. So when you need more bandwidth, it makes sense to have those secondary or tertiary SIMs be available.
I could just jump in, Evie. What's really interesting is if you've got
Yeah.
a SIM that you're just storing up for a contingency, if you're not using it in the right way, as in through our blended technology, who's to say that's going to work anyway? You're just failing over to another fail. You know, that's almost like the irony of kind of what happens. And you know, and the other point just to make, which is quite just as a fun point, we talk about pace in the context we're just talking here. And I'm glad you explained, Dean, what it meant, because PACE in the UK stands for the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. Yeah, we talk about
I knew you had a different
in the UK, but it's all about policing and criminal evidence.
Marcus, you bring up an interesting point. Here in the United States, we may have a carve out for public safety. Well, if both your alternate and your primary are the same carve out, and if that network goes down, you know, backhoe fade or whatever, now you still have zero connectivity. So there's an important distinction between providing an alternate that is different than what you have as your primary.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Marcus, you've seen what happens when comms go down. So from a UK perspective, how critical then is it for network independence for public safety?
Communications in the field, and you can take the most extreme scenario all the way down to a situation where an officer needs to shout for help in everyday frontline policing. If the technology that they've got fails, it doesn't work, there is a time delay in moving from one to another in the way that we counterbalance all of that through our blended technology. Well, of course, it's those crucial seconds that make a difference between life or death, serious injury, does somebody go home safely at night? And of course, all of these things build into the picture of, is an organization, is a policing body resilient? We talk a lot in the UK at the moment about building resilience. So where are we? You know, as we look at threat and harm and we look at the technology that we've got, how resilient are we come the time of extremism, when everything is going dark, and we've seen examples of this in the media recently, not in policing terms, but where parts of the world have gone dark and people can't pay by credit cards or whatever it might be. You start applying the same sort of thinking to policing where things have suddenly gone dark. Well, that is a very difficult place and, you know, absolutely want to avoid being. So communication, stability of, reliability of means that you are resilient, you can manage your risk, you've got a really strong mitigation plan that you can trust, and you know that you can kind of fall back on it in a way that, frankly, at the moment, you just simply can't do. And of course, all of that is about ultimately, how do we keep the public safe? How do we keep our staff safe? So you cannot put a price tag, if there was one to be put, on reliability and independence of comms, flicking from one to another. We know we have multiple different service providers, but going from one different provider of a service to another in a way that people wouldn't see, but packet by packet, blended technology, it's absolute gold.
Thank you for that. Matt, I want to bring in the conversation. You and the team at Dejero have been working on the Titan product family. Command is the first product. Without, you know, giving too much away, what else is coming up?
The Titan Command's just the first, right? So we're really this is a game changer for us. This entire series that we're working on. Hence the new naming scheme of Titan Command and the Titan family. So after Command, right, the integrated 3x5G unit, we have another 3x5G variant of the same product set that's intended for mobile applications, could be for some indoor use, but it's basically the option to give you the external antennas. So those use cases where you do need external antennas, um, that's what's going to be provided out of Titan Mobile, and it's going to increase our Ethernet port density from 4 to 6 Ethernet ports on that, but we're still going to have that same extended temperature range, the same performance characteristics and capabilities of the product, and really excited about that. So that's coming up next, and then we're going to go virtual. So we have Titan Ghost coming up with our virtual gateway platform. So running the exact same software enables you to deploy this same technology into a server platform, an x86 based server platform, and leverage that same smart blending technology across your infrastructure. Really useful if, say, you're using fiber based services or LEO, MEO, or GeoSat services, right? You need to blend those together, and you can right size the server and port availability for your application. And then finally, we have a portable product coming out. So real excited
So
about this. So it'll be fully portable, battery operated, fully contained, integrated antennas, and we're really looking forward to the release of this with its you know uh, uh, public safety focused mobile gateway software, still running our smart blending technology.
very, very exciting, Matt. And of course, I think, to you and your team, for those listening, just an incredible work. This series is really, we're hearing such positive feedback. So just amazing. This last question, and I'll let you each take this however you want. If there's someone listening right now, maybe they're running emergency ops for a city or they're responsible for public safety at a major event. I mean, we have World Cup, Olympics. I mean, there is a lot happening around the world right now. What would you want them to know? And then maybe we'll start with our English friend, Marcus, to kick us off.
I think the first thing that I would say, well, two that are linked to Dejero for me, because I think this is really important. Dejero is a company that can be trusted, that you can work with. It considers policing, law enforcement, public safety, all the things you've heard Matt talk about at the heart of what we deliver. And we can overcome the problems that you face. And often you don't realize that you've got the problems that you've got because the communication side of things is not really often very much at the forefront of people's minds until sadly it's gone wrong. Comes to my last point, which is really, really crucial here. As we see technology evolve and integrate into policing, often the thing that people think means success is, have you got the drone sitting on the roof of a building? Have you got the best body worn video on your chest? Have you got an in-car camera? Have you got everything that you need at the front end? And the thing that I would say to people that you need to know and understand is, as much focus as you make on the front end of policing, which is crucial, you've got to play equal measure to the back end, the communication platforms, the stability, the resilience, because as technology moves and weaves into policing more and more and more, you need the back end more and more and more to be stable. And it's a bit like buying a car and not having an engine or the wheels on it. It might look good on the driveway, but if it doesn't go anywhere and it can't pick up speed, it's hopeless. So that's what I would say to people. Start to think much more than you've ever done before about the back end and communications and data. Uploading, downloading, latency, crucial for your future resilience and success.
I would ask some questions, and I think it would revolve around this idea of whether or not you're getting the maximum benefit to having more than one SIM in your patrol car. If you have a body worn camera, a removable laptop with SIMs, and a mobile data terminal, that may be 6 to 5 SIMs. If that's a typical inventory in one of your vehicles, does this list of devices that I just cranked off, is that familiar to you? And what are actually the numbers in your vehicle? Have you audited it? Have you seen how many SIM cards or data plans you're dealing with? And who in your organization is having to deal with all of that? And then what are you currently spending on those SIMs that are just sitting idle? Have you ever had a failure where, because you're in a situation where you're using all the same carriers, that you've completely lost the connection? How does that make your organization appear to the people you serve and protect? How does that make you feel? What could you do about it? What simple steps could you take to solve some of those questions?
Thanks so much for that, Dean. Also super insightful. And Matt, you have last word. And the question was, if there's somebody listening right now, whether they're running emergency ops for city or public safety at a major event, what do you want them to know?
Dejero, we're all about mission critical applications. That's where our technology shines. It's paramount to all of our design decisions, whether that be the software side or our hardware side, such as Titan Command. We want to be there for our public safety partners. You're out there saving lives, protecting people. We want to be able to provide that communications platform that um, is solid and reliable. So there's never a second or a third time you have to try it. It works the first time, and it works every time. That's what we really want to do. That's what we're focused on doing, and we believe we have just a great product line here that can support all of your needs. And just want to reiterate it. It's born from you, right? It's born from our public safety partners, and we believe it will continue to evolve from there as well.
This was really insightful conversation to hear, like your different thoughts on, usage and development. I mean, it's really, really amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been great. Enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Evie. We enjoyed meeting your new puppy.
Yes, that's Coco. Well, you just heard from Matt Scully, Dean Taylor, and Marcus Barnett. Dejero Titan Command is available now. You can learn more at dejero.com Titan. Thanks for listening to Critical Connections. Stay safe, stay connected. Until next time.